Last time we talked about defining enough, but here's the uncomfortable reality. There are many people who find they have enough to retire, but not enough to do everything they hope to. Could be a second home, gifting to charity, more vacations, helping the grandchildren, whatever. Or they discover they may not be able to sustain long-term everything they want to do. So today, Eric Lee, I want to talk about trade-offs, making trade-offs, finding this delicate balance between running out of money versus dying with too much. And it seems to me in your 50s, the trade-offs seem to get tougher. So how should people think about this?
Patrice, that's what we work with every day at Purple Wealth. It's the core problem we're trying to help clients solve, which is, our philosophy is to help people spend or give away as much as money as possible. What's the point of money? But that's the key part, is as possible without losing your financial security. And those trade-offs are not new. We all have trade-offs all through our lives, but somehow in our 50s, they just feel heavier. And I think it's because of a couple of reasons. Number one, time seems more precious when you hit midlife.
True.
When you're younger, you feel like you have time to make up for corrections, so to speak. But also the urgency, the responsibility seems heavier. The retirement, you're trying to launch your kids out of the home if you have them. Your parents are aging. And you're hitting your peak earning years. You're starting to taste a sense of freedom and excitement about that. And then the last thing is our lifestyle, our identity is tied to our lifestyle for many people. And so when we can't do everything that we want, it can feel like a real loss. We love doing the math at Purple Wealth. We love to grind the numbers, but to the client, it oftentimes feels like a loss if they can't do everything they want to do. And that's hard.
Well, what I'm hearing here is a lot of emotion, not so much financial.
Yeah. Trade-offs are always emotional because they're really competing values. Your values are disguised, but they're competing values clashing with each other. And all of our values around money and what's important to us are emotional at their foundation. So it's not greed. It's just these competing values, and values require prioritization. And oftentimes that's what's missing.
So how do you help them find that?
First of all, for most of the people we work with, the understanding they can have most anything, they probably just can't have everything. And so it's not a failure. It actually becomes liberating and not limiting when you realize you do have options. But it's a deliberate action to look at what those priorities are. So the problem isn't people's desire to do so much. It's just that the desires are undefined, unprioritized.
So what happens when somebody wants to do something, but their financial situation, their financial plan really can't sustain that?
Well, first of all, it's important just to start listing everything that you could do. What would you do if you could?
Mm-hmm.
And just listing those out, define them. What does it cost? Are you trying to retire at 60? You're trying to help your kids with a down payment on their house. You'd like to buy that second home, gift to charity. Just list it all out. And what would you do if you could? And that's the first step, is just laying them out and trying to understand what they are. And then the second step is to quantify it. What do these cost on an annual basis? Problem we see oftentimes is that people are living at what we call the ceiling of their lifestyle. They're trying to do everything, and that's not always realistic. So we're not trying to kill dreams, but it's more about just getting grounded in what's realistic and honest. And so I always encourage clients to go ahead and define it and list them. And what would you do if you could? But then we need to sometimes backtrack and rank those. So we've listed them, we've quantified them, and now we need to rank. So if you have 5 desires that are really important to you, let's cut those down to 3. And it's not so much that you're unfunding something, but you're funding something else that's a higher priority.
I love what you mentioned, I believe in your last podcast, You can afford almost anything. You just can't afford everything. That's what you tell people?
Yeah. And so it's not, that does become liberating when you choose. So list what you want to do. Let's quantify it. Let's rank it. And then maybe you have to eliminate something. And that's where you choose deliberately. And again, that's so hard to do, but and most people are not taking that last step of really choosing deliberately. They continue to just try to live at their lifestyle ceiling, saving consistently, don't make the hard choices, the hard conversations. And but that's really the last step, is to try to identify what would you take away and narrow down the list, and then do something to align your finances with these priorities. Run some projections, talk to your spouse, which frankly many couples don't do. Most couples haven't had these conversations about what their true values are, and oftentimes couples' values are at competing odds, so to speak.
True. Well, you have a 4-step framework that you use on trade-offs, right? Why don't you tell me about them?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I'm just kind of referencing a little bit in terms of let's list them. What do they cost? Let's quantify them. Let's rank them 1 to 5. What's most important to you, and then lastly, let's deliberately choose what those top 2 or 3 priorities might be, and so that you're just trying to be conscious and deliberate about what it is that you live, what matters most to you.
All right. So you've got, you set your priorities, but then you talk about quantifying the ceiling. What is that? What does that mean?
The ceiling is what does this lifestyle cost? What's this ideal lifestyle cost? Okay. I would call that the ceiling of your lifestyle. Listing everything that you wish you could do or hope to be able to do, and quantifying what that is, and put that into an annual budget or annual number. We call that your ceiling, your lifestyle ceiling. The second step is to define the floor.
Ah, yes. Okay.
What is it realistically, honestly, that it takes for you to live a good life? We can't always have everything that we want, but that's not what this is about at midlife. Or in earlier years when we're accumulating, people try to do a lot, maybe overextend themselves in different areas, but midlife's not about trying to do everything. It's trying to get clear on what really matters most to you.
And do you find which is more difficult for people to do? The ceiling or the floor?
Well, the ceiling, because it's hard to choose, to decide what you want to give up.
Okay.
I mean, everybody has an idea of what they'd love to be able to do and try to put a cost on that. But also people underestimate how little money it really takes to live a satisfied and content life. They oftentimes overestimate that as well.
And what about sustainability? Do you talk to them about that?
Yeah, that's the key, is being clear about what is sustainable. So clients are always asking these 2 questions. Are we okay? And the second question is, can I live the life that I want? Can I sustain the life that I want? And that's the whole idea, is we may be able to start off at a certain lifestyle, and that's okay, but we just want to help clients get really clear on whether it's sustainable and whether that's okay. And some clients choose to have a lifestyle in their early years that's not sustainable long-term, and they're willing to make sacrifices and choices later in life. But what we're trying to do is help clients choose consciously and deliberately, understanding the pros and the cons, both the short-term and the long-term consequences of what really is sustainable, so they don't lose their financial security. But again, as you mentioned at the opening, the challenge is our clients don't want to die rich. Yeah, we're laughing, but it's a real issue.
You're right.
Dying with all this money at the end of your life is not always success. And in fact, a lot of our clients feel like it's a failure. They should have spent more. They should have given more away. And it's a real issue. So we're trying to help them balance both those competing priorities of not losing your security, but also not dying with too much money, as however the client defines it.
Right. Okay, now we're talking the 4-step framework. So we did name the competing goods, the competition, you quantified the ceiling, and we talked about the floor. What's step 3?
Well, step 3 is just ranking all these priorities. So is it more important to you to help your children with a down payment on the first home or retire early? Is it more important to you to buy a vacation home or retire early or have more freedom and flexibility? Would you rather gift to charity now while you're alive and can see the good works, or would you rather leave it at the end of the legacy? So prioritizing those desires is the third step. Then the fourth step is just to choose. Is to choose deliberately and not just let this drift and unconsciously try to do it all.
Right. Or just let it happen.
Just let it happen and see what happens, and let the markets try to go up enough to make it all work out, or avoid the hard conversations.
You mentioned talking to your spouse about this. How often do you see couples come in and there's a real discrepancy between what one expects and what the other expects?
Often, normally. But that's typically around a different issue of around competing emotions. So our emotions drive all these decisions, by the way, right? And clients are wired differently. Some clients are wired with what we call a protector mindset. They're always going to be very concerned about being prepared for the unexpected or making sure they're extra secure and having this safety net. And for those people that are just wired that way emotionally, it's very hard to spend money or to give money away. And other clients are wired more with emotions of commitment or obligation, where they feel obligated to help their children or to give to charity, support other family members. And other clients just are wired to live, I would say YOLO. My kids would say YOLO, you only live once, and they just want to be happy and they don't think about other consequences. So the point is, these emotions and how we're wired, and we can't change that, is really affects the marital or partner conflict of how to make these decisions and how to do the trade-offs, because they have different emotions that are driving them. So our goal is not to change one's wiring emotionally. We can't do that. Our goal with clients is to help them understand how their emotions are affecting their decisions. And so for the spouse that doesn't want to spend more or give more away and are really concerned about that, what they normally need is just more clarity. They need more data, more numbers. They need to really see data that they're going to be okay. And for other people that don't have those fears of protection and security and are just willing to let it go, sometimes they need to see the downside of what they should be concerned about, how they might lose their financial security if they keep on this path. But clearly the emotions are driving it, and spouses' emotions are very different.
In your opinion, who usually wins out? Do you dare say?
I don't say it's a win. The challenge with clients is to help them come together and understand each other's differences and understand which emotions are driving their decisions, and just to be aware and to put them out there on the table with no shame and no blame. And then to understand why. You know, for so many of our clients, the second home or the vacation home might sound like an unnecessary luxury, but when you dig in, it's really oftentimes about this desire to bring family together and to keep their family together and have a place they can congregate. And it's all about the family. And those are strong emotional drivers. And it's not so much about the house. It's about how do we have a place that we can get all the kids and grandkids together in the years to come. So it's about understanding from your spouse why that's important to you. What's important to you about this desire, and having that conversation. And those are conversations that just most couples just don't have, frankly.
That's a great example of the house. Absolutely. Digging down into that, it makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. Yeah.
But it's liberating. I personally just went through this exercise. I won't name it, but there's a new shiny big toy that I thought I wanted to buy recently. But I did this process. I sat down, I listed everything that I want to do. put the cost on it, ranked it, and then removed a few. And this new shiny toy got removed, but it felt really good. And it felt empowering. And I felt really good about myself, reminding myself of what's important and why, and to be conscious about the trade-offs that I need to make, and my wife Terry and I need to make in our lives and our financial lives.
That's great. That's great. So you practice what you preach here.
Try to.
Is there one thing you want someone to take away from this podcast?
I think the one takeaway about making trade-offs is that trade-offs aren't failures. They're just a step to clarity and to purpose. And that's the key. What this issue is that clients are facing a place in their life where they've achieved some security. And as we talked about in the last podcast, they're moving into this feeling of having more freedom and into more purpose with their money. So it's not a failure to have a trade-off, but it's all about gaining clarity and redefining what the money's for and what really their meaning and purpose is for the money.
All right. So what's the homework?
Do this. On our website, purplewealth.com, we have an exercise for our clients and the public to take. It's called Better Conversations. It's the foundation of our firm. It's an exercise you can take for free and play around with it. But on this exercise online, the Better Conversations exercise located at purplewealth.com, I've listed what I've learned in the last 30 years in this business is probably the 15 most important priorities people have about money, their values. Maybe there's some more. I haven't been able to find them, but there's 15 statements, value statements about what's important about money. And I encourage the listeners to go to this Better Conversations exercise and just take a look at them and start picking up from the 15 of what's important to you and narrowing those down to your top 5 values, your top 5 priorities around money. And in the exercise, there's a box where you can rank how you're feeling about your progress on those right now, and also a description of why that's important to you and for you to flesh it out. So I would encourage listeners, there's no obligation. It doesn't, we're not going to hustle anybody up or try to track anybody down. It's a resource for the public to start engaging in these kind of conversations. And it makes it easier to work with your spouse or partner, if you have one, to do it together and understand each other's views about what's important and why, and what we might need to make a trade-off around.
You have 2 comments here that I really like too. Trade-offs feel painful in abstraction. They feel powerful in decision. And you've mentioned that power.
Yeah. It's liberating. It is empowering to be deliberate.
All right. Well, Eric, is there something we haven't mentioned here that you want to make sure we do?
Midlife is this time to you're not building from scratch, but you're just editing and you're refining what a great life is. And midlife is a time where, maybe we're not trying to do it all and overextend ourselves. We're just trying to get clear on really what matters. Time is precious. There's urgency in our lives. And the more deliberate and clear you are about what you're really trying to achieve and experience, people will feel more confident and more clear and more control. And that's the key. More clarity, more confidence, and more control around your finances.
All right, then. How can people reach you, Eric?
Send me an email at eric.lee@purplewealth.com. You can look us up at purplewealth.com too and learn more about us.
And of course, listeners, be sure to follow, share, and like this podcast. Get in touch with Eric. Let him know your thoughts too. I'm Patrice Sikora, and thanks for being with us. Thank you for listening to Better Conversations, the Life and Money podcast with Eric Lee from Purple Wealth. If this episode sparked something for you, follow the show so you never miss a conversation. You can learn more at www.purplewealth.com or reach out directly. We'd love to hear your thoughts. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Purple Wealth is a separate entity from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Any guests and their companies are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Purple Wealth. Individual tax or legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. There is no assurance that techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal.